we're going to get started. I want to thank all of you for coming to the third event in this year's Sustainability Speaker Series. This series was sponsored by the City of Sunnyvale as a way to expand community awareness on issues of sustainability. My name is Crystal Wickham, and I'm a member of the city's Sustainability Commission. First off, just a couple of housekeeping items. We have a full house, and I would like to encourage anyone, if you're sitting next to an open seat, to stand up and move toward the center because there may be more people coming in. It'll be easier to access from the aisles. All right, so I have a few thank yous to do. First, I'd like to thank the City Council for their vision in sponsoring this speaker series. Also, it takes a lot to put on these events, and the city staff has been excellent in the Environmental Services Division. So particularly, I want to thank Nupur Hiremath right here for all of her work in doing the planning and promotion for the events. All right, also I want to thank the entire Sustainability Commission and to Steve Zornetzer in particular. I know I saw him earlier, it's right over here, who worked with me to help plan the topics and the speakers that we would be doing in the series. Also, I want to give a shout out to Tim Way right here in the front. Likely he's Sunnyvale's most well-spoken advocate of the zero waste lifestyle. And he first introduced me to the concept, and I credit him for kickstarting my own zero waste journey, which is still a journey, by the way. I'm not there yet. And certainly not least, a big thank you to our speakers, who I will be introducing very shortly. All right, a couple other things. If we do run out of seating, we will be live casting the event in the West Conference Room, which is just across the hall. So we don't allow anybody to be standing, so everybody needs to be seated and have the aisles cleared. All right, also restrooms are located in the lobby to the right and the left. Any kind of refreshments need to stay outside. Nothing is allowed in here, including the waters, so please keep all the refreshments outside. All right, you may have noticed the reusable serving items, so actual plates and cups and napkins, cloth napkins. So it's a zero waste event appropriately, and actually all of our speaker series events are going to be zero waste. And it's also a lot classier too, right? Agree? All right, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. This event is being recorded, and it's also being live broadcast on KSUN TV. And after the event, we will have a 15-minute highlights video that we'll publish probably within the next week or so, and you could share it with your friends. All right, and during the Q&A at the end, we are going to be conducting a brief survey. We'll hand those out during the Q&A. We really want your feedback on how to make this series even better. And we're also planning for next year's series right now. So any suggestions you have on speakers or topics you want to hear about would be really welcome. All right, and before we get into the main program, I'm pleased to give a plug for the new Green at Home program. So it's an opportunity for Sunnyvale residents to get information on how their home is using energy and take action to reduce the energy usage. So in partnership with Actera, a local nonprofit environmental education group, Sunnyvale is sponsoring this free program. It includes online analysis of your PG&E smart meter data, providing you with diagnosis of how your home is using energy. You'll receive periodic recommendations via email for your specific situation and bi-monthly progress reports on the savings that you achieve. So participants can also contact Actera for a personalized consultation and some free in-home visits if needed. We do have Violet here from Actera, right here standing. She's holding some clipboards, and You can sign up on the clipboard with your email tonight and get some more information about how to participate. All right, so last year, the City Council chartered and funded a sustainability speaker series to drive community awareness, education, and participation in best practices relating to sustainability. The Sustainability Commission took this charter and suggested 3 engaging speakers for this inaugural series on topics that are relevant and timely. It's our hope that these events and speakers will inspire and motivate you to take some action in your own lives. This is the 3rd and final event of the first series, and like I said, we're actively planning for the next one. Tonight's topic on the zero waste lifestyle is especially relevant considering the introduction of Food Cycle in Sunnyvale this fall. This provides residents with new curbside carts with a food scraps collection compartment. You may have already heard about it, and you've probably also seen the examples of the new carts outside in the lobby. So food waste is a global problem with local and personal solutions. Resources are needed to produce food, energy, water, labor, transportation. When a significant portion of that food is wasted, even further resources are needed to transport it and store it indefinitely in a landfill, which, by the way, produces methane, a potent greenhouse gas. So by reducing the amount of food we waste and diverting remaining food scraps away from the landfill, collectively we can have significant impact on greenhouse gas emissions. So tonight we do have a brief overview of the Food Cycle program before our main speaker. So Mark Bowers, manager of the city's solid waste division, is here to describe the key elements of Food Cycle. So please welcome Mark Bowers.
Thank you very much. That's a great introduction. And we're well aware that you're not here to see us, so I'm going to be very brief and save room for the main act. I feel like I'm opening for the Rolling Stones here. So we're going to show you a brief version of our PowerPoint that we've been using in our public meetings, and there'll be some other public meetings coming up if you want to see one in September, one in October. I think we have the dates on one of the slides coming up, so see if we can get this thing to roll. And we're going to have Nupur fire up this 1-minute video that capsulizes how things work. Okay, and we apologize for the song. You'll be hearing that in your sleep for the next 2 weeks. This is a picture of this is an actual Sunnyvale family, and apparently they did not actually paint their house in order to do this shoot. It was already yellow. Very convenient, and we really appreciate the help that our models provided. So on to the details. We've got the new food scraps program coming to single-family homes this fall. Carts will start to be rolling out in September over a 7 to 8 week period, distributing 1 garbage route at a time, and there's 5 times 7, 35 garbage routes. Why are we focusing on food scraps? Well, as we mentioned, we've got city policies and state policies, the climate action plan, the zero waste policy, and a state goal from the Air Resources Board to divert 75% of organics by the year 2025. That's a lot. And when we do the math on Sunnyvale's waste composition, Sunnyvale single-family homes are throwing out 8,000 tons per year of food scraps. That's the statistic that we're trying to reduce. So we're hoping to capture 50% of that. We'll think we've done real well if we capture 50%. In our pilot, we got 62%, so that leaves us a little room for slippage. So how does the program work? We actually have the old cart here in the photo, but you can see the new carts in the lobby. We were talking to people about those before the show started here. And we're going to leave those out there tonight so you can take a look afterwards if you want. And we're taking all food as shown in the video. Meat and bones, a lot of stuff you can't put in a backyard compost pile. That's one of the advantages of this program. Take spoiled food from your refrigerator when you clean that out, or clean out your freezer. And we're not looking for paper products. Food soiled paper, and we always get to pizza boxes. We can't take pizza boxes because if we say we take pizza boxes, we get pizza. And here's the tools you're going to get when the rollout hits your neighborhood. You're going to get the cart that you may have selected. If you didn't make a selection, you're going to default to the small, medium, or large, the same as you have currently. You're going to get a kitchen top pail, which is not mandatory. If you don't want to use that, let us know. We'll pick those up and get it to somebody else. A 10 pack of starter pail liners, a guide, and to sweeten the pot, one free garbage bag tag in case you have capacity anxiety about your garbage. You get one free extra bag. And those are, you're able to buy those at the finance department and most of the grocery stores in town. And how will we know this will work? Well, we ran a 9-month pilot program in 2015. Anybody in the room in the pilot? Okay. One? Okay. Well, thank you very much. We really put the pilot people through the ringer. We tried a lot of different things on them, and everyone was, for the most part, very gracious in playing along and getting us some good data. So really worked out. We went to 5 neighborhoods, 500 plus homes. We got 73% participation and 62% capture on the food, and that, as I said, was far higher than we had anticipated and much higher than we see in other cities that use different techniques. And where can you find more information? We've got community meetings coming up in September, October at the library in the fiction room. And if you're familiar with the library like me, you may have no clue where the fiction room is. It's the opposite side of the building from the program room that we normally are in. You go in the lobby, take a left, and you're there. And you'll get a reminder notice mailed out to you pretty soon. And here are our web information, and we're on Facebook, and we put out next door postings. We're on Twitter too. And there's our contact information with the phone number. For email questions, if you have anything after tonight, we don't have time to take questions, so we can get right to the main act. But our email for the program is recycling@sunnyvale.ca.gov. So recycling, RECYCLING, at sunnyvale.ca.gov. And thank you very much. Oops. We're not requiring to put scraps in a bag. We find that the bag overcomes the ick factor that in other communities depresses participation. People like putting stuff in a bag so they don't have to touch it. And the first step in the process takes out the plastic bags. So it's a way, and we encourage people to reuse bags.
If they choose not to, it's okay with you guys if they put it straight into the bin.
Yes. And then it's their own bin, and they have to deal with, cleaning it out periodically. Yeah, or people use techniques like putting it in the freezer and putting it out in the morning of collection, wrapping it in newspapers, things like that. Yeah, but you get to ask a question only because you are tonight's featured star. But thank you. That's a very good question. I appreciate it. And I'm going to turn it back over to you. And there's the clicker. And thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mark. All right, I am thrilled to introduce our main speaker this evening, Bea Johnson. In 2008, Bea and her family of 4 adopted a zero-waste lifestyle. They since produce a mere liter of waste per year. With her blog and best-selling book, Zero Waste Home, I brought my copy, hoping to get it signed. Bea launched a global movement and continues to inspire a growing community to live simply and take a stand against needless waste. As you'll hear, her methodology is based on 5 R's: refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot, in that order. She shatters misconceptions, proving that zero waste can not only be stylish, but also lead to significant health benefits, time savings, and money savings. She speaks at universities, corporate events, and conferences around the globe, including in our hometown, Google, Adobe. She's also spoken at the European Parliament and the United Nations. She has completed 8 international tours and given over 200 speeches in more than 30 countries on 6 continents. She has appeared on TV shows and in publications everywhere, including the Today Show and BBC Breakfast. Passionate and optimistic, she has become a guru for many and is a spokesperson for the zero waste lifestyle, or as the New York Times has put it, she is the priestess of waste-free living. She's a grand prize winner of the Green Awards, a French native, and currently lives in Mill Valley. Please join me in welcoming Bea Johnson.
Yes. Hello, Sunnyvale. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm really impressed to see how many people came. And I like this room, actually. It's quite intimate. I'm sorry I forgot my accent reduction filter at home, so you have to bear with me here, and hopefully you'll get half of the words I say. But, well, let me go straight into it and present to you my family. Aren't we pretty? Yeah, that's us. I'll show you something more glamorous. There we go. So I have a son whose name is Max on the left-hand side. Max is 17. I have another son. His name is Leo. He's 16. I have a husband. His name is Scott, but I'm not going to tell you how old he is. And then there is Zizu, our zero waste mascot, the mascot of the family, our zero waste Chihuahua. He's truly a zero waste dog, because there is not one plate that goes in the dishwasher before Zizu has had a chance to lick it. Now, our journey started back in 2006. We were then living in this house outside of, I typically say outside of San Francisco, but here I have to be more specific, in Pleasant Hill. But that house was located on a cul-de-sac, which meant that we had to get into a car to do just about anything. Go to the grocery store, take the kids to school, go to the restaurants and the movie theaters. And we kind of missed the life that we had known in the big cities that we had lived in. We were used to walking and biking everywhere, so we decided to relocate to a downtown so we could do all these things within walking or biking distance. So we picked Mill Valley, but before finding the right house in that downtown, we rented an apartment for 1 year, and we only moved in with the necessities. We put the rest in storage. But what we found during that year is that when you live with less, all of a sudden, you have more time in your hands to do what you enjoy doing. More time for family, more time for friends, for picnics, for hikes. So when we did find the right house in that downtown, we got everything out of storage, and we found that 80% of the belongings that we had put in there, we hadn't even missed for a whole year. So we let go of stuff. It took us about a couple of years to let go of about 80%, but we did. And then it's thanks to that voluntary simplicity that we found time to finally educate ourselves on environmental issues. So this was back in 2006. We watched some documentaries and we read some books. And they made us quite sad, my husband and I, thinking about the future that we were creating for our children, the future that we were going to leave behind for them. And that's what gave us the motivation to change our ways. In wanting to change our ways, we started to reduce our energy consumption. We watched our water consumption. And then I turned towards the waste. Now, back then, the term zero waste was only used to describe waste management at a city level. The city of Capanori in Italy were the first to do that. And it was also a term that was used in the manufacturing world. But it was not a term that was used to describe something that you do at home. But I saw that term and I thought, that's what we should do. As Recology puts it, if zero is not the goal, then what is the goal? So with that goal of zero waste in my head, it really helped me to push things further. Now, there were no guide on how to live a zero waste lifestyle, so I had to test a lot of things. Some things were good. For example, one day I decided I'm not going to buy canned tomatoes anymore. I'm going to learn how to make them. Picked up the phone, called my mom in the south of France. She gave me all the instructions on how to can. And yes, I learned how to can. I don't can all summer, of course. I only can tomato sauce. And I do it just once a year. Dang, I really need to get going on that. It's almost the end of the tomato season. So I'll keep on canning once a year. But there are other things we tried that did not quite work out for us. So I had heard of a way to wash your hair without shampoo, and it's called no poo. And in order to wash your hair with no shampoo, you're supposed to wet your scalp. You throw some baking soda on your hair, you massage it in, and then you rinse it out with apple cider vinegar. Yeah. So let me tell you, I did this for 6 months, and let me tell you that the results on my long, fine hair were not pretty. See, I ended up with frizzy ends, not quite the look I was looking for, but I think I reached rock bottom when one night I went to lay down next to my husband. He turned over, looked at me, rolled his eyes, and said, "I am so tired of you smelling like vinaigrette, Bea. It's really not sexy, you know." At that point, I realized, okay, maybe I've gone too far here. Maybe if I want to save my sexual life, I should find another alternative. So in that case, I decided, okay, forget about the baking soda. And I went on to buy a bulk shampoo, but today we don't even buy bulk shampoo. We use another alternative, which I'll mention later. Yep. There was a time also where I looked at my cosmetic pouch and I was determined to find a zero waste or at least more environmentally friendly option for all my products. So I took my pouch of cosmetics to Pharmaca. You guys have Pharmaca here too, right? So I went to Pharmaca and I asked one of the salesperson to give me a solution or an alternative for all my products. And she said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I don't have an alternative for your lip plumper." Now, for those of you, because I'm actually quite surprised how many men have been dragged to this presentation. And so for the few men in the audience, a lip plumper is a gloss with an ingredient in it that tingles your lips, and it's supposed to make them bigger. Honestly, it's total BS. I've actually put a ruler on my lips with the before and the after measuring. There was no augmentation. But in my head, just because it tingled my lips, it made me feel like he was actually doing something. Now, I was disappointed that the salesperson at Pharmaca didn't have a solution for me, so I thought, well, there's got to be something. So I Googled it, of course. Natural way of plumping your lips. And there I found this video of this beautiful woman, a little bit like Angelina Jolie, with nice, big, beautiful, plump lips. And she says, well, it's simple. All you need is stinging nettle. You remove the leaves from the twig, you roll the twig on your lips, and she does it in a video. And she shows you this amazing result, and I'm like, dang, how did I not think of that before her? I'm a forager. So I put on some gloves, I went out to the woods, and I gathered some stinging nettle, brought it to my home, removed the leaves, and then proceeded to the instructions she had given us in the video. I rolled a twig on my lips. Well, guess what? Ouch. Ouch, it hurt, but of course also it did not quite provide the results I was expecting. Sure, I ended up with exploded lips, but not the right explosion, you see. I ended up with hard red blotches a little bit everywhere. They were not even balanced. Maybe if I had 2 bumps here, I could have worked it out. Anyways, in this case, I decided, you know what, forget about stinging nettle. Might as well be happy with what God has given me. These lips. Yeah, right? Yep. There was a time also where we looked at our toilet paper and we thought, well, I shouldn't say we, I should say I looked at our toilet paper and I thought, wait, there's got to be a solution here. And at that time, I was actually taking a botany class. And one day, we're in the woods with my foraging teacher, and she said, hey, by the way, if you guys are ever stuck in the woods without toilet paper, that moss over there is fantastic. It's nice, it's soft, it's elastic. You'll see it's a great alternative to teepee. I thought, dang, that's what we should do. So I went to the woods with a bucket. I filled the bucket, brought it home. But you know the problem with moss is that moss dries. So the next day I ended up with a bucket filled with, you know those green scouring pads that people use to scrub their pots? Ouch, not very pleasant, I must say. Yeah, now also my husband wants you guys to know that he did not try the moss, okay? But anyway, in this case, we decided, okay, forget about moss. Let's just stick to toilet paper. But we buy it from a restaurant and a hotel supply store, so it's just sold wrapped in paper, and it's 100% recycled. And because we buy it from a restaurant supply store, it only costs 49 cents, not like second generation, which costs like $2 a roll or something. Anyways, after all this trial and error, after testing all these extremes, we found our balance. And we found that for zero waste to be sustainable in our household for the long run, that is for life, all we had to do was follow 5 rules in order. And I repeat, in order. Refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, rot, so that at the end of the year, we're left with very little trash. As a matter of fact, I brought you last year's jar of trash, and it happens to be half the size of previous ones. So last year we created, basically it's it's a half a quart, so it's a pint. So a pint of trash. Now if you ask me later, I'll tell you what's in it. But simply what's in this, it's all the things that we were not able to apply to the 5 R's. But I know what some of you guys are thinking. Yeah, right. She kidding us? I'm sure she hides some of her trash in the neighbor's cans. Oh, I think she takes it in the city's cans on the street. Or maybe she buries it. No, wait. You're going to see this. So the first rule to a zero-waste lifestyle is to refuse what we do not need. We've simply learned to say no. We've learned to say no to single-use plastics, but we've also learned to say no to freebies. Because today in this consumerist society, we're the targets of many promotional goods. But every time we accept them, we're creating a demand to make more. Every time we take a free plastic pen from a conference, it's a way for us to say, I love plastic pens. And I dream of a world filled with plastic pens for our children. And more plastic pens will be created. So we've simply learned to say no to these things, to stop the demand, but also stop these things from coming into our home and becoming our trash problem. We've also learned to say no to junk mail. And yes, I must say that in the US it's quite a feat, but we've managed. We no longer receive any. We also say no to the meal on the plane, and we also say no to business cards. I repeat, we also say no to business cards. Now I have to repeat it because at the end of each of my talks, there is always someone that tries to give me their business card. Maybe I'll take a picture, but I do not accept them. Now the second rule of a zero-waste lifestyle is to reduce. To reduce what we do actually need. Of course, we need a roof on our heads, a few pieces of clothing, a few pieces of furniture. But once we're comfortable with the necessities, then everything becomes excess. And we found that we really don't need much in order to live comfortably. So we've gone through a decluttering process in our home. The beauty of decluttering is that it allows us to let go of all the things we don't need or use to make them available to others. It boosts the second-hand market, which is extremely important for the future of zero waste. So this is our kitchen. As you can see, there isn't much on the counters, but let me tell you, it's much easier to clean. You also don't see a refrigerator, but I'll talk about that later. Yes, we do have a refrigerator, but I'll talk about that later. So this is our stove, and right next to our stove, I used to have a glass jar filled with accessories. I had about 10 wooden spoons until I realized, well, wait, for my type of cooking, I don't need 10 wooden spoons. One is enough. So these are our accessories in our kitchen. We found that we just need a few things. They each have a very specific function. This is a picture of underneath my sink. I must say this is a space I was not so proud of before, because it was a space that was filled with cleaning products, because I was listening to what the marketers tell us. They tell us that for each application, we need a different product. To clean the floors, a product. To clean the windows, another product. Stainless, another product. The toilets, another product. Grout, another product. And we end up with a cabinet filled with products that are not only toxic to our health, but there are also products that are completely unnecessary, because we found we can clean the whole house with just white vinegar and water. And we also use Castile soap, which we buy in bulk at Whole Foods. We use it to wash our hands, wash the dishes, wash the floor, and yes, even wash the dog. See it? Now this is our bedroom. As you can see, we don't have much in our bedroom, but we do have in our bedroom the things that we need in our bedroom to do the things that we do in our bedroom. But some of you guys got that. And here is our closet. I'm just kidding, guys. Come on. This is our closet. Now, we found that in a typical closet, people only use 20% of their clothes because they keep the other 80% for the what if. What if I have a job interview? What if I have a wedding to go to? What if? And we end up with a closet filled with things that we never wear. In our case, we figured out what our 20% were, and we've let go of the other 80%. So in my case, I have 2 dresses, 2 skirts, 1 pair of shorts, 2 pairs of pants. Well, anyways, it's 15 pieces altogether. Is it 7 tops? Hey, I know what you're doing. You're like, okay, what is she wearing today? Well, today I'm wearing the jeans and the skirt. That's actually a skirt right here on top. But having less does not mean that I have less options, because I have found that my 15 pieces allow me to create more than 50 looks. This is an experiment I did for the blog. As a matter of fact, it's more than 50 looks, because the little black dress that I have is called an infinity dress, and it can be worn more than 20. I've done 22 different ways so far. Now, my husband grew tired of it, so I actually bought a replacement today at your Sunnyvale here, Goodwill. Now, this is my teenager's bedroom, Leo's bedroom, the 16-year-old. And this is his closet and desk. So this is basically his bedroom. And so Leo is, of course, as minimalist as the rest of us. So he has 7 tops. I mean, it's basically 7 T-shirts, 2 long-sleeve shirts, 1 dress-up shirt, 2 pairs of shorts that are hybrid, so they can be worn as bathing suits, as Bermuda shorts, and you can also wear them for biking. He has 3 pairs of pants, and 1 pair of tennis shoes, 1 pair of flip-flops, 7 underwear, 7 pairs of socks, and all of that fits in a carry-on. Is the clicker? I don't think this is working. Well, anyways, in the carry-on. As a matter of fact, each of our wardrobes fit in a carry-on, even mine. I can't tell you how wonderful that is. Because when I want to go away, when I go on a trip, I no longer have to question what should I bring, because I can just bring it all. But even better, if we want to go away for a weekend, a week, a month, all we have to do is put our wardrobes in the carry-on, we zip it, we're out of the door, then we have a cleaning service that comes, cleans the house, then we have people that come to our house, rent our house out, and pay for our vacations. Now, this is an idea that Scott had about 5-6 years ago. Scott only has 2 good ideas a year. And I must say that this one blew my mind. This is the same space. This is a slide that I've wanted to include to show what we did when the kids were little. So when they were little, they shared a bedroom and they shared a playroom. But when we decluttered our lives, we asked them to pick their favorite toys. And they picked Playmobiles and Legos, which are 2 brands that are made to last a long time. I mean, they don't break. They're made to last. Although today I probably would choose wooden toys. But back then they had those. So they picked them. And in the end, when they were too old to play with those things, they were able to buy themselves a more age-appropriate replacement by selling their sets. This is our bathroom, and so on the picture on the right are the contents of the medicine cabinet, the mirrored medicine cabinet that you see on the left. So this here on the right represents all the products that we have in our house as far as hygiene and cosmetics. So to speak in detail of them, the only product that I buy that is manufactured, it's an SPF tinted moisturizer, which is locally made. It's Marie-Véronique in Berkeley. And it's organic, and it's packaged in glass. And since I took that picture, I've actually asked them to only send it to me without the label and without the pump, so I can even eliminate those 2 things. On my skin at night, I either use cooking oil, a vegetable oil that I buy in bulk, like sunflower oil, because it has a high concentration of vitamin E. And sometimes I also buy some body lotion. I just use it on my face. I'm sure the manufacturer would die if they heard that. On my cheeks, instead of bronzer, I use cacao powder. It's basically chocolate powder that I buy from the bulk bin, and I apply it straight onto the cheeks. The black on my eyes is coal powder, which I make from burnt almonds. It's the item, the clicker doesn't work, but it's the item that you see on the bottom left. And it's beautiful Moroccan applicator. The mascara is the recipe I am most proud of in my book. I can tell you it took a lot of trial and error to find the right concoction. One night I went out with some girlfriends for dinner. I was trying a recipe. I came home to find that I had black down to here. You'd think my girlfriends would tell me, right? Yeah, no, apparently no. So, yeah, they're not my girlfriends anymore. And then I also make a multi-purpose balm. It's just a beeswax and vegetable oil. And I use it to smooth out my hair, add shine to my cheeks, or add shine to my nails. Sometimes the lips, no need for stinging nettle anymore. Those are our hygiene products. So my husband and now 2 teenagers use a double-edged razor. But after each use, they dry their blade, which greatly, greatly extends the life of the blade. They only need to swap it out once every 6 months or so. To wash our hair, wash our face, wash our body, and also to shave, we use 1 bar of soap, a solid bar of soap that we buy actually from our Whole Foods. It's called Good Soap, and it comes unpackaged. It's just sold loose. Actually, at the thrift store at Goodwill, where I was just at, they also had loose unpackaged soap for some reason. Weird place to have soap, but bulk comes in sometimes mystery places. My husband likes his hair a little spiky in the front, so I make him a little hairspray. All it is, it's lemon peels that I would have used for cooking, to which I add water. I let it reduce, I filter it, and then guess what? It's actually magic. It sticks to the hair. Just lemon water. For deodorant, we use an alum stone. It's an alum crystal, so we just wet it and apply it. It's fantastic. Cuts the odors, but not the flow. That's why I wear jackets. Then to brush our teeth, we buy baking soda in bulk and we sprinkle it on a wooden toothbrush, which is compostable, but not the bristles. So, yeah, don't believe what the manufacturers tell you. The bristles are not compostable. So we pry them out and then they end up in the jar. Now, it's working. So for floss, we use a square of silk from which we remove 2 strands, we twist it, and once we've used it, we can add it to the compost. At least to ours we can. I don't know here. This is our linen closet. As you can see, we don't have much in our linen closet, but we do have 1 set of sheets per bed, so we don't need extras. And we have 4 towels that are always hung in the bathrooms or in the bathroom, and then 4 extras if we go to the beach, the pool, or if friends come over. And this is our garage, although, wait, and yeah, now we have 1 extra bike since I took that picture. Yeah, people laugh at this picture. Do you hear that? There is always a reaction when I show my garage. Why? Your garage doesn't look like this? Now, I must say mine didn't look like this either in the past. It's true that in garages we have a tendency to collect a lot of things that we have trouble making decisions on. So in our case, well, we had a lot of sporting equipment because Scott, as macho as he is, he truly believed back then that it's the quantity of sporting equipment that makes the man. The more sporting equipment he had, the more money he would be. And so I pointed out to him that the golf clubs in a corner of the garage, which, take quite a bit of space, and as you know, California real estate is quite expensive, so when you think how much room this is taking, doesn't make any sense when you haven't used them in 20 years. So I encouraged Scott to donate them, and that's what he's done, and that's the beauty of decluttering, because today a real golfer can use those golf clubs. But better yet, it's allowed Scott to focus on his 2 favorite sports, which are snowboarding and biking. And he's much better at them. Today, he's one of the coaches on the high school mountain biking team. He road races and also races for mountain biking. He just did a race again this weekend. Now, the 3rd rule of a zero-waste lifestyle is to reuse. And for us, reusing means swapping anything disposable for a reusable alternative, but it also, so actually I'll give some examples. So for example, instead of paper towels, we use rags. Instead of sponges, we use a metal scrubby and a wooden brush, which is compostable when it's no longer usable. The metal scrubby we can recycle when it's no longer usable. We've eliminated all food storage type items like aluminum foil, plastic wrap, wax paper, sandwich bags, Ziploc bags, freezer bags, all these things, trash bags, simply with the glass jars. And we really use them to transport our food, basically to store everything. We even use it for Zizou's dog food and water bowls. It was spilling everywhere before when I was buying the dog bowls, and then one day I thought, well, let's just try a jar. It was magic. It stopped spilling because there is it comes in on the sides. Now, our kids wrap their lunch in a furoshiki. Furoshiki is the Japanese art of wrapping in cloth. So the kitchen towel is not only used to wrap the food, but it's also used to transport the food. And then it becomes a placemat and also a towel when they're eating. When we've had parties at our house, no need to buy disposables. We don't have a lot of stuff in our home, but we do have 2 shelves filled with glasses. And the biggest party we've had at our house was of 40 people. Now, let's say you plan on having 40 people at your house, and you plan on serving appetizers with paper napkins. You better plan for at least 200 paper napkins, because your guests do not respect the paper napkin. They'll grab one to wipe their mouth, they'll throw it out. They'll grab another one to get a drink, they'll throw it out. They'll get another one maybe to get an appetizer, and they'll throw it out. In our case, when we had that party of 40 people, we found that only 25 people dared to use our cloth napkins. As a matter of fact, we don't even have 40, we only have 32. But when we have parties, I'll make finger foods instead of serving big things. And it's actually if we have more than 10 people in our house, because we can sit 10 people around our dining table. So anything over 10, I'll make a finger foods. Now, swapping anything disposable for a reusable alternative also means going grocery shopping with reusables. So this is the kit that we take with us. We actually have 3 of those black bags, which are actually laundry hampers. We bring a cloth bag for bread, glass jars for anything wet, like meat, fish, deli, cheese, olive oil, peanut butter, honey. We bring cloth bags, which I've made from old sheets, to buy anything dry, flour, sugar, salt, cereal. We bring mesh bags for produce, and we buy the Strauss brand of milk because it's a returnable container. You just take it back to the store. And the only place where we can find eggs in bulk is at the farmer's market. And I very much suspect that it's the same here. Now, so here I am buying some shrimps at the health food store. So the staff will place it straight into the jar, but they will deduct the tare, which is the weight of the jar, from the total price. So I'm not paying for the weight of the jar in shrimp money. And then I go through the bulk section of the health food store. And then once I'm home, as you can see, I have not brought back any disposable items. There is even in the back here, you see an orange juice. There is an orange squeezing machine at Whole Foods, so we just bring one of our old milk bottles, and it's fantastic because my kids have rediscovered the true taste of orange juice. If they go to someone's house and they're offered orange juice, they're like, no, thanks. They see the brick and cuts their appetite. Because they know that the stuff that comes in a brick has nothing to do with the fresh squeezed orange juice that we buy for them. And then at the bottom, actually, you see the soap, the white squares. It's the soap. So then I transfer anything dry into glass containers. So this is what our pantry looks like. And this is our refrigerator. Now, contrary to most people, we don't have an armoire-type refrigerator. We have refrigerator drawers. But we found that it's actually a very smart design that's allowed us to completely eradicate food waste. We do not waste any food at our house. Simply because we store our food in glass containers, we can see what we have. If you store your food in Tupperware or aluminum foil, and you have a shelf or armoire-type refrigerator, typically the foods that you like most move forward on the shelf, the ones that you don't like as much move backwards on the shelf, and then they expire and you have to throw them out. This is not our case. But also, before going to the grocery store, we take an inventory of what we have. No need to buy more lettuce if we already have lettuce. I have a trick to actually turn wilted lettuce into edible lettuce. So I take an inventory, and so I make sure I'll make use of what I have in the coming week. I'll make an effort of that. At the bottom right, you can see our freezer drawer. So the big white blob that you see is another pillowcase in which we freeze our bread. And then in the glass containers, well, in one we store the meat bones, in another the fish bones, and then I'll use them to make stock. And then once I've used them to make stock or a broth, then we put it in a CD curbside compost. We also have a jar in which we collect dry pieces of bread. So I'll cut them up to make croutons, I'll grate them to make breadcrumbs, or if the jar is filled, then I'll make bread pudding. And in another jar, we store our candles. Why? Because apparently, a candle that is pre-frozen burns longer than a candle that's not. Goes far, doesn't it? This is our condiments or liquids cabinet. Now, this is a space that was filled before because I had lots of different types of oils, lots of different types of vinegars. And here I realized that for my type of cooking, well, all I need is one type of olive oil, one vegetable oil, one apple cider vinegar, and one red wine vinegar. I buy the first three in bulk, so I just bring an old bottle of white vinegar, and then I make my own red wine vinegar because it's as simple as adding leftover wine to a mother of vinegar. Actually, that's kind of the problem. You do need leftover wine to make vinegar. We also, speaking of wine, we also buy it in bulk. And in the Bay Area, where you can do that is at La Nibia in Half Moon Bay, or in San Francisco, there is Tank 18, and about once a month they'll do a bottling event. So you have to have a bottle that is 75 centiliters because it's calibrated for the machine, which is why we reuse old lemonade bottles. Now, the second rule of reusing is to buy secondhand when we do need to buy something. So, of course, we buy all our clothing secondhand. Yes, even the jacket. Yes, even the top/skirt. Yes, even the jeans. And yes, even my heels. $5. I scored that day. I was pretty proud of myself. But also our furnishings. So, for example, like Zizou likes to photobomb all my pictures every time I did. There he is. Anyway, so we bought the table on Craigslist, and also the chairs on Craigslist. And actually, the chairs were from the flea market. We bought these chairs on eBay. But speaking of eBay, this is where we buy the super specific things, the things that we cannot easily find walking into a thrift store. So at the beginning of the school year, when the math teacher requested a scientific calculator, obviously that's not something we can easily find in a thrift store, so we fall back on eBay. But when we buy on eBay, we make sure to select in the left-hand column, pre-owned, used, or second-hand. Somehow, depending on the category, the term changes. And then, so then our whole selection is second-hand. And then once we've picked something or purchased something, we ask the seller to only sell it to or send it to us in paper or cardboard. So you see, plastic wrap or bubble wrap does not fit in the jar. So I actually have a pre-made sentence. I was going to read it tonight, but I forgot my phone in the bag. I have a pre-made sentence that I have copied on my desktop, and so if I buy something, I just copy-paste, and it explains that I don't have a trash can. Now, I showed the JanSport backpack because a couple of years ago, when my kids started high school, they both wanted a black backpack, probably because they wanted to blend into the crowds like I did at their age. But I looked at the backpack that they had used through their elementary school years, and that backpack was still in a pretty good shape. So I thought, well, I should just buy the same brand, but black. And their backpacks were JanSport. So I went on eBay, because again, it's something super specific. I went on eBay and ran a search, black JanSport backpack student, and selected, of course, secondhand on the left-hand column. And the selection I got surprised me. $25 for a second-hand backpack when the new ones are like $30. And I thought, well, too bad. I'm sure going to buy it second-hand because I want to support the second-hand market. So I bought two backpacks, and the two arrived at home. One of them was in a good shape, but the second really wasn't. That person did not get a good feedback from me. The top was fraying, the straps were coming undone, the zipper was not working right. And I told my son, well, let's just let's just try to repair it the best we can. Let's just finish the school year and then we'll figure something out. Thank God. At the end of that school year, I found out that JanSport has an unconditional lifetime warranty. Do you know what that means? That means that if you have a JanSport backpack, no matter where it comes from, I'm not telling you go steal some JanSport backpacks from a school playground, but what I'm saying here is that if someone gives you a JanSport backpack, if you buy one secondhand from the thrift store or from eBay, then when that backpack falls apart, you can send it back to the company, and the company will repair it, and if they cannot repair it, they'll replace it. Did you just get what I just said? I'm not sure you did. What I just said here is that you basically need one backpack for the rest of your life. Just need to rotate it. And so the few times that we've bought something new, it was actually to buy one of those products with an unconditional lifetime warranty. And I can tell you, not a lot of brands do that. Sure, a lot of them talk about a lifetime warranty, but if you read the fine print, you'll find out very quickly that it only covers you against manufacturing defects. It doesn't cover you 30 years down the line when the actual item falls apart. But these companies do. So my husband has a Briggs & Riley carry-on. We have totes, umbrellas, and we have, and yes, you guessed it, there is a brand with an unconditional lifetime warranty on their socks. I no longer have to darn our socks. It's called a darn tough. Sorry, the French accent always gets in the way there. Darn tough. Darn, well, whatever. Now, the fourth rule of a zero-waste lifestyle is to recycle. But recycle only what you cannot refuse, reduce, or reuse. So the zero-waste lifestyle does not encourage you to recycle more. It actually encourages you to recycle less by preventing waste from coming into your home in the first place, thanks to the first three rules. So we put Zizou next to the bin, our recycling bin, the bin that we fill on a weekly basis. And as you saw earlier, Zizou is not a Great Dane type dog. He's a Chihuahua, so we don't fill a can this big, but a can this big. Now, what's in our recycling bin? Well, it's the school papers that have been printed on both sides. The ones printed on one side we reuse. It's the contact lens solution that my husband buys. It's probably the most, I would say, it's the only recurring plastic item that we buy. And we also have the bottles of wine that friends bring over to our house. So, you know, when we have people coming over, they're a little lost as to what to bring. They're like, hey, bring a bottle of wine. It'd be a nice change from the bulk wine we buy. But we also have assigned bins for the hard-to-recycle items, the things that we cannot simply throw in our recycling can. So, for example, we have a bin in which we collect worn-out tennis shoes. I personally, I do not own a pair of tennis shoes, and I only buy second-hand leather because it's more easily repairable. But my husband and the kids wear sneakers. So when they're worn out, we throw it in that bin, and then we take those shoes, and I actually did today on my way here, to Fleet Feet in San Francisco. Or you can take it to any shoe store that participates in the Nike Reuse a Shoe program. And then what Nike does with them is to make basketball courts. They have a great video actually online that shows how they do that. But we've learned a lot about recycling and about plastics through this lifestyle. We found that plastics are not only toxic to our health when they're being manufactured, they're also toxic to our health when we use them. Don't call me crazy, but if I go to a party and there is a platter of cheese, and I happen to take the piece of cheese that was right against the wrapper, I can taste the wrapper. Because with this lifestyle, I've rediscovered a true sense of taste. Now, it's obvious that if I can taste the wrapper has obviously migrated, or the wrapper is leaching into the food. And of course, we're finding out more and more that these materials are having a detrimental effect on our public health. Don't know if you guys know, but you know that they've linked BPA to newborns with smaller sized penises. I love to say this in schools, middle schools, high schools. Freaks out the kids. They're like, oh. But we've also found that very few plastics have the chance of being recycled or being turned into something useful. Putting it in your can does not mean that it's actually going to be turned into something useful. Very few plastics have the chance of being turned into something useful. So, for example, and then when it's turned into something useful, then it's actually turned into something that is meant for the landfill. So, for example, if you recycle a plastic bottle and they make a park bench with it, well, that park bench is no longer recyclable. It's meant for the landfill. So those are the reasons why we try to avoid plastics at all costs. So instead, we favor metals because it's recyclable over and over again. It loses a bit of quality over time, but not that much. Glass is the best material. That's the most recyclable, and it's recyclable over and over without losing quality. Paper and cardboard are recyclable up to 8 times. So at the beginning of the school year, if the kids need binders, we don't buy the vinyl kind. We buy the cardboard kind. And this one actually is made by Rebinder, and it's got the advantage of having the cardboard connected to the metal part with 2 screws. So when the cardboard falls apart, you can simply basically swap out the cardboard with a piece of cardboard from the back of Starbucks. And then sometimes we also choose wood, like the toothbrushes you saw earlier, because that's a material that is compostable. So composting is the last rule of the zero waste lifestyle. So in our home, of course, we compost fruit and veggie scraps, but only the peels of the fruit and veggies that need to be peeled. We don't peel eggplants, zucchinis, turnips, apples, pears, and this has allowed us to enjoy or take advantage of the vitamins that are enclosed in those peels. We also compost floor sweepings. We also compost where we are. We can put butter wrappers in it. We only buy butter. The butter wrappers that we choose are a wax paper, but I believe here you can do that, right? Because it's a paper product. Butter is the only food that we buy in packaging, by the way. In some places in the world, it's available in bulk, but not here. Yes. Not so long ago, had I heard about a zero-waste family, I would have thought to myself, oh boy, these people must be total hippies. Or they probably live in the boondocks, and I'm sure she doesn't shave her legs. You guys can check, I do not have hair on my legs. Otherwise, I would have thought to myself, well, this must be a stay-at-home mom with way too much time on her hands. I'm sure she spends her days worrying about her trash and making a bunch of things. Well, that's not the case either. I have a full-time job with a very busy schedule, I reassure you. The zero-waste lifestyle is the complete opposite of what we would have thought it would be. It's not just good for the environment, as you would imagine, but we've also found that it's much healthier for us. Because thanks to this lifestyle, we've been able to eliminate all toxic products from our lives. Today, we no longer clean with some weird ingredients, some toxic products. Today, we just clean with white vinegar. In the past, when I was buying my mascara from the store, I would get conjunctivitis twice a year. I thought I just had sensitive eyes. Well, ever since I started making my own mascara, since 2012, I have not had one conjunctivitis. My husband has chronic sinus infections. Since we embarked on the zero-waste lifestyle, they've totally gone away. But when I got started, my husband was a little worried. He said, you know, we're in the midst of the recession. Here we were, it was 2008, in the midst of the recession, and he said, we can't afford to do this. He saw me go to the health food store with my reusables. He saw me go to the farmer's market. He's like, we can do this. It's too expensive. And people on my blog were saying the same thing. So I asked Scott to compare our bank statements between the zero waste lifestyle and the lifestyle before zero waste. But guess what? That's when Scott found that we were saving 40% on our overall budget. Now, Scott is a numbers kind of guy. Once he saw that number, he said, "Amen, Bea, keep going." But what are these savings based on? Well, one, we consume way less than before. Before, if my mother-in-law visited, we'd go shopping. Sorry, I had to place her somewhere in my presentation. Gotta keep the mother-in-law happy. Or if we went on a trip, we'd buy souvenirs. We were constantly adding to our inventory. Today, we're happy with the number of things we have in our home. We're comfortable. We're no longer adding to it. If we buy something, it's only to replace what needs to be replaced. A sneaker that has a hole in it, or a t-shirt that is too small. And when we buy that replacement, we buy it secondhand, which obviously costs less. But we also buy our food in bulk. Did you know that when you buy a food or an item that is packaged, 15% of the price covers the cost of the packaging? As a matter of fact, in the case of laundry detergent, it's 70% that goes towards the cost of the packaging. So when you buy your food in bulk, when you buy in bulk period, you make an automatic 15% savings. But we've also replaced anything that's thrown away for a reusable alternative. So that means that we're no longer throwing our money away. Because if you buy something that is disposable, well, you buy it, you use it, you dispose of it. It's literally throwing your money away. We've stopped all that. Today we have implemented reusables, and they've translated into huge cumulative savings over time. These savings are so great, they've allowed us to install solar panels on our roof and a grey water system which reuses the water from the showers and the washing machines to irrigate our land. It's a gift that keeps on giving. But to me, the best advantage of this lifestyle is the simple life. By definition, voluntary simplicity is not there to complicate your life. It's there to simplify it. Make room in your life for what matters most to you. Thanks to this lifestyle, we've discovered a life based on experiences instead of things. It's a life that's based on being instead of having. Thanks to this lifestyle, we've been able to do things we would have never, ever thought possible before. We've gone snorkeling between two continents. We biked between San Francisco and Los Angeles. Of course, we had rented a house during that time, so it's as if we were being paid to do this. Yes, we walked in some swamps in the Baltics, but look how happy I am. This is my husband's favorite picture. Happy wife, happy life, right? This is my 13-year-old. He was 13 when we ice climbed, and I can't tell you how proud he is of that picture. None of his friends have done that. And my favorite picture is this one. If you have a teenager at home, you know how hard it is to put a smile on their faces. Well, the Zero Waste Lifestyle has done exactly that for us. It's translated into absolute happiness. And Gandhi said, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. I believe the Zero Waste Lifestyle has done exactly that for me. Now, of course, I'm not here to tell anyone how to live their lives. I have no right on that. I'm only here to talk about my experience, our lifestyle. If it inspires you, fantastic. If it doesn't, well, too bad. Oh, but wait, just in case it did, here are my 5 top tips. So, number 1, of course, follow the 5 rules in order. The second, is to read my book, Zero Waste Home. I'm really proud of my work. I share everything I know about the lifestyle. I go into great detail about what to do when you travel, what to do, how to declutter, how to do with the kids during the holidays. I've also created or made available some resources on the blog, zerowastehome.com. There is a forum that has allowed for the global zero waste community to share all the problems that they've found, the solutions that they discovered. I also created a store where you can source all the things that I mentioned in my book, on the blog, and in my presentation, but please don't buy from my store. I didn't create the store for people to buy on it. I only created it as an album, a way to illustrate the things that we use in our home, but I would highly recommend that you buy those things secondhand, of course. We've also created a bulk finder. It's a bulk finder that is participative. It's a community, a web-based app. And so it's the zero waste community has entered thousands and thousands of bulk locations throughout the world. So when we travel, this is our first stop. If you only remember one thing from tonight, it's that buying is voting. Every time you buy something, you have the power as a consumer to either support a practice that is sustainable or is not. Every time you buy food that is packaged, a way for you to say, I love packaging, please create more. And more will be created. But every time you buy your food in bulk with your own containers, it's a way for you to invest your money in a more sustainable future, a non-packaged world for our children. If you feel you're stuck, that you have to buy a product that you don't like the packaging of or the design of, or in our case, in 2010, we received an insurance card. Every 6 months, we were getting a laminated insurance card from our insurance company. Now, it's important to speak up in those cases, because if you don't say anything, nothing will change. It's up to you to propose alternatives. They might actually have a chance of being implemented. So in the case of our insurance card, I contacted the insurance, which happens to be the largest in the US, and I said, hey, it's kind of a shame for you. I'm in the media all over the world with my jar of trash, and your card is sitting right in the front. How about you switch to a cardboard card? Because then we could recycle it. And boom, then they switched to a cardboard card. So let your voice be heard. Who knows? Change might actually emerge from that. And finally, I would encourage you to join the global zero waste community. The little French au pair that I was at the age of 18 when I first came to the US, with the same haircut and hair color, would have never ever thought that one day she'd be here in Sunnyvale talking about her zero waste lifestyle. The book, which is now translated in 17 languages, and the blog have launched a global movement. There are thousands and thousands of people doing this throughout the world today. Some of them have even decided to go further, like Marie, who opened the first unpackaged store in Germany. Or this couple who decided to also open an unpackaged store in Germany, but they decided to do it even better by creating or by designing their own dispensers, plastic-free dispensers, because they were not on the market back then. So the man on the right designed the dispensers out of glass, metal, and wood, one step even further. There are these 4 women who decided to launch an organization, Zero Waste Switzerland. There is this couple who opened their first unpackaged store in Switzerland a year ago. Today they are a franchise with 9 stores throughout Switzerland. There is a Jean who, after reading my book, decided, you know what, there should be more products sold in returnable containers. So he created a whole line of products in returnable containers, and he designed also dispensers for them. Oops. There you go. And then there is Jason. Jason is at the head of Bulk Barn. Bulk Barn is a chain of bulk stores, a bit like Winco, in Canada. Now, I had heard that Bulk Barn was not accepting reusable containers. So, with my family, we went to Canada on vacation, and of course, we looked at the Bulk app to see where we could find our food, or where we could source our food without packaging. I saw Bulk Barn, and I told my husband, we gotta try it, because I heard they don't accept reusable containers, so let's go test them. So we went there a little bit worried, thinking, dang, what if they turn us down? it's going to be a fiasco. It's embarrassing. So we went in there with our containers, and each member of the family decided what they were going to get, and we all went at once. We all showed up at the cashier at once, so they didn't have, the staff didn't have a chance to turn us around. So we showed up at the cashier, and the cashier just took the items, and she scanned it, didn't say anything. Like, yes, they accepted our reusable containers. So I posted it on my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you, Bulk Barn, for refilling our containers or for accepting our reusables. The Zero Waste community in Canada saw this, and let me tell you, they were not happy. What? How come they let her refill our containers and not us? That's not fair. They must have recognized her. No, they did not recognize us. It's simply that the cashier had only worked there for like 10 days, and she did not know the rules of the company. But by posting all this on social media and by the Zero Waste community over there rebelling, they attracted the attention of Jason. Jason saw this and he said, you know, maybe it's about time we accepted returnable containers or reusable containers. And so they, since February, they now have the policy throughout their 270 stores throughout Canada to accept reusable containers. And then there is Anne, who decided to open a mobile bulk shop. She goes to the farmers' markets in the south of France. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm kind of envious of her. Now, the people that I mentioned and my family have one thing in common. And do you know what that might be? Well, it's actually the regret of not having started earlier. So I would encourage you guys to think about this. What do you have to lose on adopting a zero-waste lifestyle? Who knows what you might discover about yourselves? Maybe absolute happiness, as we have. Thank you. Can I drink? Don't do this. So we have 10 minutes for questions, and please feel free to ask anything that goes through your head. I'm here for that, and I have nothing to hide. Yes, thank you.
Someone so stylish also. What I want to know is I have had some success in reducing mail, junk mail, to our home, but not all of it. It comes back. So what might be your secret there?
So in the book I mentioned the steps. The first steps we did was to go on preoptoutscreen.org. I can't remember if it's .org or .com. There is GMA Choice also. So they are those two sites you have to go on. And then you also go to Catalog Choice, and Catalog Choice will eliminate all catalogs. Then for the things that are sent directly to you, like charities love to do that, to send you their stickers and their mailing address and all that. In that case, you have to contact them personally and to ask them to remove your name from their mailing list, but also not sell, rent, trade, or share your info. If you don't say this, they will share your info. So,
is there a service that does all that? Can I just?
There is, I believe it's called £41. There are services, and I believe it's $41, something like that. And they are, I mean, I'm not sure how effective it is because I haven't tested it. There is also Paper Karma. I don't think I said karma right. It's the French accent again. But there is an app called Paper Karma, K-A-R-M-A, that will help you eliminate junk mail. But, you know, there are some things that you will have to do on your own. Like if it's sent directly to you, it's up to you to ask them to remove your name from the mailing list. Yes?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm stuck with the bulk bin shopping when it comes to buying snacks for my son. And it just so happens that anything I get from the bulk bin, he will say, no, I can't eat that. I want Doritos. I want this. I want that. And so I get stuck going and getting him Doritos, and it's not in the bulk bin. So
Well, if you keep buying it for him, it's sure that he's going to expect it from you. So
what did
how
your
old is
kid-
he?
He's 12.
Okay, so when did you start?
2 years ago.
Okay, so that was actually, 10 is actually, I believe, a pretty easy age to start at. I mean, of course, the younger you start, the easier it will be. But it's important also when you start with bulk foods and when you're transitioning, to bring your kids also to the bulk aisles and let them pick, their favorite cereal. So they'll test it out and they'll go for what looks good to them. So when we started out, we brought our kids. We're like, okay, go ahead, you can pick whatever cereal you want, whatever snack you want. And then they found, Max loves flakes and Leo loves granola. So we have these two types of cereal, but that's how they embraced the bulk foods.
All right, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
I didn't think of that.
I haven't found anywhere to recycle really unusable clothing.
Well, actually, unusable clothing is recyclable. They are, the textile recyclers are just dying to put their hands on all the textiles that end up in the landfill because people think that it's not recyclable. It is. There is, so some Goodwills have participating locations. I don't know if here they will accept it. You can put it in a bag and label it rags, so then they know that it's worn out. It's not to be resold in their stores. And they have themselves, I mean, it's better for them anyways, right, to actually sell that to a recycler. They can fill their pockets with that. So it's in their advantage to actually collect it to then sell it. There is also Co., which is an organization that has bins in different areas. You have to go to the website to see where it is here. Where I live, it's like at, what is it called, North Face. They have a bin and they take a lot of materials. Yes, you want to add to that? What do you say it's called? Oh, okay, smart stations. So what they do with those, so for example, because those textiles are needed in the automobile industry for rags. With the jeans, worn out jeans, they make insulation. For certain textiles, they actually make it into like soundproofing or like carpeting. So definitely do not throw your textiles, to the landfill. Or even have a collecting bin.
I'm curious about your automotive products. How do you deal with used oil, things like that, and
See, we
also
don't do that
also
because we take
taking
it.
care of your car? And how much do you use your car to get to those bulk sellers?
So although I pedaled all the way to LA, I did not pedal here tonight. I'm sorry. I actually I drove. We used to have 2 cars, and then it took us a couple of years to really make the decision. Scott was really afraid of it, but one day we went into a dealership with our 2 cars, and we came out with one second-hand Prius. Our kids laughed at us and said, "I think you got screwed here," but but anyway, so we have a hybrid. I would like, of course, one day to have an electric. It's not feasible where we live because we can't fit a car in our garage, and we are on street parking and across from our garage. But it's on our list of things to figure out. For all the, I have to say, for the maintenance, we actually take it to the professionals, and the same for cleaning the car. We don't wash the car ourselves because we found that it's actually more wasteful to do that than take it to the car wash where the water is being reused. Talking about water, people tend to think that because we have reusables and we have small wardrobes that we're going to be washing more and using more water. It's not the case. We actually use a quarter of the water compared with the regional average. That's because as far as the laundry, for example, sorry, I've gone off on a totally different subject. That happens. People tend to think when you have less clothes, you're going to be washing more, but it's not the case. You learn to manage your wardrobe. In the old days, when the kids were little and they lost a sock under the couch, or they dripped a little water on their T-shirts, they would get a clean one from their closet. Today, they have just the right number for the week. They know that if they drip water on their T-shirt, it's better to let it dry, because if they get a clean one from the closet, they won't be able to finish the week. So we've all learned to manage our wardrobes instead of, putting it on and throwing it in the wash for no reason. Yes? Someone had that. I told you the question would come up. Yeah, and finally, a lot of people tell me, well, I can't cancel my newspaper because I need the sleeve to pick up the poop. If you're at that stage, you can probably also use your frozen, because if you're still getting newspaper, you're probably also still buying frozen foods or food that is packaged, and you can use that if you want to pick it up. Personally, we don't have that problem because, for one thing, we've reduced the dog. So his items are not this big, they're this big. And Zizou is quite shy. We are very lucky. He only likes to do it deep in the ivy under the Catholic Church. But the Catholic Church has nothing to do with this. But what I mean is that he actually goes so deep in the ivy that, one, we can't find it. And even if I wanted to find it, I'm not going to go in with my heels. So we let it be. But that said, if, like I talk also about that in the book, you can actually have a dog poop composter. So it happens that Zizou does his business in our yard. We could have a dog poop composter. All you need to do is have a bucket. You put some holes in it, and then you layer leaves, poop, and then you have to let it sit, and then it actually becomes a compost you can use on your non-edibles. And then you, of course, need another one, because while the first one is curing, you need another one to start a different one. That said, we don't do that because Zizous are so small it would take us forever to fill a bin. But it's also because we've learned through our water treatment plant that we can actually flush dog poop down the toilet. So when Zizou does it in our yard, we pick it up with one of those, gardening shovels, and then we throw it into the toilet. Do not do that with cat poop though, and do not flush down the toilet flushable litter or cat poop. Period, because it has because of the toxoplasmy bacteria that's actually going down. It ends up in the ocean. It's killing the otters. So you have to be mindful of that. Yes. And I don't have a solution for cats. I only have a solution for dogs, because that's what I have. If I had a cat, I would have had to figure that out, but I don't have one, so I don't have to. Yeah, so it's kind of, some people get their cats tested. If your cat is an indoor cat and you have it tested and you find that it doesn't have that, then yes, you could flush your cat poop down the drain. But it all depends if he's an outdoor cat or not. And, that's, then get it tested and you might just simply be able to flush it.
Last question.
Otherwise, I was going to say, if to pick it up, if it happens, when we're traveling, then a receipt can do for Zizou. Piece of paper this big.
Hi, I wanted to ask about sunscreen since we have a lot of sun here and we do a lot of outdoor activities. What do you do in that situation?
So in the book, I also talk about that. There are a couple of things you can do. There is a brand that's fantastic, Avasol, can never remember their name. It's a cardboard tube. It's a stick that you can just apply. It works great. And then you can actually, well, you guys, I don't know if you could compost in our compost. We could put it in the compost. But that said, also in the book, I mentioned that if you buy lotion in bulk, you can as well add zinc oxide to it to make it sun lotion. However, we used to buy Avasol because I didn't want to buy the packaged zinc oxide. You know, it's sold in a plastic bag. I didn't want to do that. So I bought Avasol for a while, but then I found out that Green 11 in the city was selling sun lotion in bulk. So when we went, we bought a liter of sun lotion, and we've been using it for the last couple of years. But I'm not 100% sure that she's still open. So I just found out this week. I can't vouch that she's open. I don't know. I'll let you decide. Okay, what's in the jar? So these are all the items we could not apply to the 5 rules. So the red thing right here is a balloon that instead of landing in the neighbor's land, it landed on our land. A balloon. It's not our fault. But anyways, it had to go in a jar. The yellow thing is also an interesting story. Our kids have learned how to say no to freebies ever since they were little. Party favors and all that stuff. And but when they became teenagers, they both did the same thing. We took them each, so they're like 18 months apart, so it was 2 different times, but it was both when they were 14. So when Max went to the orthodontist at age 14, the orthodontist said, "Oh, well, thanks for coming. Why don't you go to the treasure chest and pick a treasure?" And Max looked at me, he's like, and he went and grabbed a styrofoam plane. He sat in the car, put it together, and the plane, you know what I'm talking about, right? Those 2 things. And sat in the car, and the thing broke instantly. He's like, "Dang it." I'm like, "Max, I've been telling you this your whole life." And Leo, at age 14, did the same thing. We took him to the orthodontist, and she said, "Well, thanks for coming. Why don't you go to the treasure chest?" I was on tour at that time. My husband described the whole thing. He said, "Oh, yeah." He ran to the chest, looked at me like, "Hey, look, I'm accepting a freebie." It was like, I think, for them, a way to show that they're independent, they can make their own decisions. And Leo picked a yellow, it's like a yellow balloon that has like, you flip it or something and it sticks to a window. Yeah, so of course he did this twice and then it broke. He's like, "Dang it. That's what we've been telling you your whole life," and they haven't done that since. So anyway, so that's, the story of growing up. For the teenagers, here are this is the bristles of the toothbrush, pieces of biking repair. We also have, actually there is even like a piece of cable from a biking repair in this. Foam from my husband's helmet that, he's been wearing it for so long that it fell apart. We have the antenna of our solar converter. Scott bumped it with his bike. It's all bike related, really. If he stopped biking, we'd have way less trash. He bumped it with his bike. It broke the antenna, and they sent us a replacement, so the antenna is in here. About every other year, we don't have art on our walls, but every other year, I do a mural in our living room. And so I buy scrap paint from the paint store. They're like leftover paints. And whatever is left over on my mixing plate, I let dry, I let it soak, and then I collect it, and it ends up in the jar. So it's there. This will not happen this year. This is a greeting card printed on photo paper. Photo paper is not recyclable. And today a lot of people send their greeting cards on cardboard or kind of, you can do the tearing test. If you try to tear it a little bit, you'll see if there is like a plastic layer or not. If there is, it's not recyclable. If it's, if it tears easily, then it's paper or cardboard. You can throw it in your recycling. But in our case, there is this family that we knew a long time ago that every year was sending us their greeting card and photo paper, and we didn't have a way to get in touch with them. They didn't have a return address. So all this time I thought, what can I do? I found him on Twitter, but he does not follow me. So I wasn't able to send him a personal message. So for a year I decided, okay, do I send him a message in front of all my followers or not? And eventually this year I'm like, okay, I'm doing it. So I sent him a message and I said, please don't send us your greeting card on photo paper anymore. And he just said, okay. I don't care. We don't really know these people. If we did, we'd be hanging out and he'd be saying happy holidays to our face. There is also the caulking from the back of the sink, which I replace about once every 6 months to a year. There is always mold that kind of grows in the back, and so I change it. It's just made out of silicone. I remove the silicone, it goes in there, and then I replace it. But last year I did it. I was quite messy, and when I applied the silicone, I had a bunch on my fingers. I took a tiny bit of, took a 1 square of toilet paper to wipe it. That's contaminated, so that ends up in there. There is last year, I don't know why, it was the year of silica packets. Even though we don't buy new, somehow eBayers like to put a silica packet in what you buy. Maybe it's because it makes the item look newer, I don't know. But we ended up with a few of those, so here they are. Anyways, I think it gives you a good idea. Sorry, I don't have any short answers, and this is the end.
Thank you so much, Bea. So as I mentioned, a portion of this event will be available online. You can share it with friends. And I really appreciate you coming, and hope you've learned some things that you can apply in your life. And I know I have. Thank you for coming. This concludes the event.
Thank you very much for having me.